Hello, Pokemon trainers. Welcome back to round 2, and I'm Zoe. I'm joined here with Joe, aka Talamaster J. How are you feeling for this next game?
Zoe, I'm doing excellent today. Round number 2 is going to be an incredible matchup. Guys, we have Chloha and Hendez going up. This is going to be an electric matchup between two 1-0 trainers.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their team sheets now. So Hendez is running a little bit more of a standard regulation D team, whereas Chloha is running a very cool bulletproof chestnut. Now, I am really keen to see that in play.
Bulletproof Chestnut is a really good Pokemon to use, as I've actually used Bulletproof in a couple of tournaments myself, and the ability to attack with no drawback of any bomb and or ball moves is really underrated.
Yeah, especially with Fluttermane still very prevalent in this format. With Shadow Ball, it's just completely immune to it. And now it looks like our players are going into their team selection, and they have selected they're about to start the game. So I am really pumped to see this Chestnut. Hopefully we game. So here we go, game 1 of round 2.
As we see Landorus and Grimmsnarl come out on Hendez's side, and Iron Hand's Fluttermane is on Chloha's side. So the Landorus gets the Intimidate off, which lowers the physical attack of that Iron Hands, and booster energy comes up. Special attack is heightened on the Fluttermane.
So this Grimmsnarl coming in or leading is probably going to want to go for perhaps a light screen or a reflect just to reduce the damage of either a special or a physical move. And Fake Out coming out immediately onto that Landorus, which is assault vested, so it cannot protect.
He cannot protect, but the Moonblast comes out on the light screen with the Fluttermane special attack boost. Grimmsnarl just barely manages to survive. What a bulky Grimmsnarl.
Yeah, that Grimmsnarl did not set off the light screen, he set off the reflect, so able to survive through that Moonblast, meaning he was probably trained to survive that attack. And now that the Grimmsnarl has set up the reflect, it is at low health, so it is pretty free to maybe just set up a light screen the following turn, and then perhaps I think Hendez might even want his Grimmsnarl to be not. Oh, it's actually Chloha's side. I think we're watching from Hendez's side.
Okay,
actually.
and
yeah.
that's my problem. But we do see Landorus come out. So Landorus versus Landorus, it is a mirror bringing back callbacks of generations 5, 6, 7, and 8 VGC with the Therian Landorus as a Thunder Wave comes out here on the Grimmsnarl, paralyzing that Fluttermane, and now that Fluttermane has a chance to potentially not attack at all.
Chloha's Landorus is going to U-turn out, so resetting that Intimidate attack drop, and we're going to see what is going to come in next. And the Fluttermane is of course now paralyzed, so there is a small chance that he won't even be able to move this next turn, but he tried quite a nice switch in, and Fluttermane is going to break through the paralysis, going to knock out that Grimmsnarl at such low HP. But I think the Grimmsnarl has done quite a good job of slowing down that Fluttermane and also setting up that reflect, so now that they're taking less physical damage from Hendez's side.
And now the Landorus comes back out again, and this Landorus does have the choice band as its held item, so this Landorus will have damage increased by 50% at the cost of being locked into whatever move it selects. And with the Heatran on its partner, it probably doesn't want to go for something like a Stomping Tantrum or an Earthquake, as we see Fluttermane breaks through and protects.
The Landorus now going for the U-turn, interestingly not going for any ground type moves, which is going to be times 4 super effective against the Heatran, maybe predicting the Heatran to go for some sort of Terror or switching out. But now the Landorus, Heatran, managed to stay in very boldly against the Landorus, and now it's in really good position. Of course, Iron Hands coming in, it is able to hit that Heatran with some super effective fighting type moves. Of course, Iron Hands, of course, having just switched in, can also have the option of going for the Fake Out in this turn.
And the Stomping Tantrum comes into the Fluttermane, so now the next time that Chloha clicks Stomping Tantrum, that move will actually do a double damage due to the fact that Protect prevents it from activating. So now with the activation, it's 150 base power move into, say, the Iron Hands. That is a very, very super effective damaging move.
Yeah, indeed, it is going to be doing a lot of damage. But of course, we do have to remember that the Iron Hands has just switched in. So if Hendez wants to, he can go Fake Out onto this Landorus, which is unable to protect. And that way, he can burn that by the Flutter Mane just one turn. But Flutter Mane is just going to switch out, not wanting to recognize that maybe it's not going to do too much against the Heatran. And the Landorus, when it's paralyzed, and Landorus coming back in, dropping the attack stat, Chloha's Landorus.
And we see Stomp and Tantrum come out into the Flutter Mane spot. What a prediction by Hendez, but a critical hit Heat Wave almost knocks out the Landorus regardless.
Oh, that Drain Punch is going to be enough to knock out that Heatran with a critical hit.
A critical hit on both sides. That just goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, that sometimes critical hits do matter.
Oh yeah, I wonder if without the critical hit, would the Heatran have survived that Drain Punch? But of course, now that the Heatran has been knocked out, the Flutter Mane is able to hit, is going to use neutral attacks against Chloha's side. The Chestnut is going to come in, so I am really, really excited to see this Pokemon on the field.
Chestnut, a very underrated Pokemon in the starter Pokemon tiers with its grass fighting type. Being 4 times weak 2 flying type moves, but that bulletproof ability does give it a extra boost as opposed to, say, Delphox or Greninja, with being able to avoid moves like Shadow Ball and Moonblast.
Yes, we haven't seen very many starter Pokemon in this format, but now that the Chestnut's here, I wonder if it can put in some work against Hendez's team. Of course, Hendez's Landorus is at very low HP, and it is going to switch out for this Ursaluna. So if Ursaluna can survive this turn, it is going to get burned by its own Flame Orb, and then the following turn, it's going to be able to deal a lot of damage, and Iron Hand's getting knocked out by the Stomping Tantrum.
Yes, it is. And the Chestnut going for the Iron Defense. It is starting to bulk up big time. But the Flame Orb activates on the Ursaluna. And now this Ursaluna with Guts is going to do a lot of damage.
Landorus switching in once again, dropping Chloha's Landorus. I believe that is now at -2 attack, and that Chestnut is also dropping down to -1. But I think the Chestnut with its Iron Defense also has Body Press, which is not going to be affected by any sort of attack drop. So Chestnut, going to be quite useful against this Ursaluna, because as we all know, Ursaluna is one of the strongest physical attackers in this current format, and with the Guts boost, it's going to be dishing out so much damage. So a +2 defense on that Chestnut is going to prove to be very, very helpful against that Ursaluna.
I agree on that front, Zoe, because with Ursaluna, I mean, Facade will still do a lot of damage with a base 140 attack on a move that doubles in power with a status boost. It is essentially a 210 base power attack. As the Chestnut goes for the Terra type, this is the Terra Water Chestnut, so it actually gets a weakness to Electric now, and its original Grass type weakness, but the Water type does help it out with defense.
Ooh, a Stomping Tantrum coming out from Chloha's side. Not doing very much against this Ursaluna, but the Chestnut going for another Iron Defense. So it is now at +2 defense, and now we're going to see Ursaluna going for the Facade, knocking out that Landorus, just making sure that there's no more Intimidate cycling going on from Chloha's side. And I believe, is Chloha down to the last 2 Pokemon?
He's actually down to his last Pokemon here, and we do see a Terrassalization on Henry's side. He is going to Terrasalize his Ursaluna, and this Ursaluna is the Poison type variation. So if Chestnut Saber is to go for the Body Press, which most Iron Defense sets tend to run, this move will actually not be super effective, but it'll be neutral. Or not neutral, it'll be not very effective.
Yes, that is true. And now we see the Body Press.
But it still does so much damage.
Wow. And that was a key survival from that Ursaluna. We're able to get the Sword stance off, but we just saw that the Chestnut being able to outspeed the Ursaluna. So I'm not too sure how much longer that Ursaluna has on the field. Also, with the Flame Orb burn damage just ticking down. This Ursaluna might just be knocked out by a Chestnut before it can even get an attack off.
It's very possible that the Chestnut could knock out this Ursaluna here as it goes for the spiky shield. That actually protects itself, but if Henry went for any physical moves that make contact with Chestnut, his Pokemon would actually take damage.
And there we go.
So wisely going for the Earthquake here on the Ursaluna, but he gets hurt. The Flame Orb damage, it lives on 1 HP! Oh my god, what a survival on Ursaluna!
Yeah, this Ursaluna is sticking out around for a really, really long time. Yeah, that 1 HP just clinging on, but Landorus now once more going for the Rock Tomb, and now this Chestnut, I believe, is going to be outspared by the Ursaluna, so it does get a Facade up, and that does so much damage to that Chestnut, which is at +4 defense. So Chestnut, choosing not to knock out their opponent and just actually going for the Leech Seed for some recovery. So I wonder, can this Chestnut win against a 1v3 from the looks of it?
It's very possible with the leftovers plus the Leech Seed plus the Spiky Shield, and the Ursaluna does go down to the burn damage here. So now it's a 2v1 on the Chestnut. This is incredible. This Chestnut is putting in the work here today.
Yeah, I believe with the Fluttermane paralyzed also, if the Fluttermane, because the Chestnut I think is at -2 speed, so the Fluttermane should outspeed this Chestnut, but of course the Fluttermane has to break through the paralysis first before he can hit that Chestnut with any really powerful attacks. Landorus one more time going for the Rock Tomb, really is not doing anything at this point, but dropping speed, the Fluttermane breaks the paralysis, goes on Moonblast, and is not enough to knock it out.
But the Leech Seed comes out here on the Fluttermane, so now both of Henry's Pokemon are Leech Seeded, and this Chestnut is now going to get so much recovery over these next couple of turns.
Yes, and if this Fluttermane can break through the paralysis next turn, or actually, I believe the Chestnut, the very, safe play is to just go for the Spiky Shield this next turn, maybe to get some recovery, but I think the Fluttermane can knock it out with any attack, as long as it does not get fully paralyzed, so let's see if this Fluttermane can actually break through a paralysis.
This will be very interesting to see, but the Spiky Shield does come out for a little extra recovery on the Chestnut here, and the Fluttermane, remember, because it switched out, it did lose its booster energy special attack boost, so while Fluttermane's Moonblast still does a lot of damage, it isn't enough to just immediately one-hit knockout this Chestnut.
No, it's not. And now, this Chestnut, I think we saw from the previous turn, the Chestnut did take about 50% damage from this Moonblast, but Chestnut is successfully going to get off another Spiky Shield. So now this Fluttermane...
And the paralysis! And the Fluttermane stays paralyzed. This Chestnut is getting more and more recovery. This is one incredible Chestnut. Can it survive the 1v1 against this Fluttermane?
That was quite an interesting turn from Chloha. I think, had Chloha gone for the attack, they probably would have won that game. But now, because the Fluttermane got paralyzed on the turn, he went for the Spiky Shield, but the Spiky Shield is going to fail for the 3rd time. Now, can this Fluttermane go for the breakthrough and the Moonblast?
The Chestnut survives on the Moonblast! It survives! All that recovery helps out Chestnut. Incredible survivability from that Chestnut. This is one incredible Pokemon.
It's a very bulky Pokemon indeed. I wonder if this Fluttermane is just going to get slowly whittled away by this Leech Seed. Of course, Spiky Shield is going to come out one more time, and Fluttermane going for the Moonblast again. Now, I actually wonder how much PP does that Moonblast have remaining. I think they've still got a few more turns left, so the Fluttermane, I don't think Chloha can stall out the Moonblast, but if the Fluttermane gets paralyzed on the one turn that the Chestnut is able to land an attack, I think Chloha will be able to win this game.
It's very possible here. As the Fluttermane goes for an attack here, it needs to break through this paralysis, which is huge from the Grimmsnarl. That Grimmsnarl, it was very keen in getting that paralysis off on the Fluttermane. It goes for Spiky Shield, the Chestnut, but it fails. Will it? It goes
Oh!
for the Moonblast! And the
Oh.
Chestnut is down!
Oh, what a game for that Chestnut. I think the Chestnut tried very, very hard. You know, it worked, put in so much work, almost brought this back for Chloha in a 1v3. So, you know, Chestnut proving that really good Pokemon on the right team, supported by the right team members. You know, the Grinstar did get knocked out quite early on, but landing that Thunder Wave was quite critical. Now, unfortunately, it didn't quite work out in that game, but it could have gone either way in those final few turns. So I'm so excited for this game too.
This game is incredible. The Chestnut nearly 1v3 against Henry's team was incredible. With the Leech Seeds and the Iron Defense and getting the double spiky shields, like that helped out with being able to survive. If Chestnut is able to do that again, we might be having a game 3, and we're going to be talking about Chestnut as potentially one of the top starter Pokemon in VGC.
Yeah, I think it'll end up being some sort of anti-meta Pokemon, because Chestnut almost had the game. If the Fluttermane had just gotten paralyzed maybe in 1 or 2 more turns, the Chestnut would have been able to survive and heal all the way back up with all those Leech Seeds. And of course, the Iron Defense didn't quite help against a special attacker like Fluttermane, but it was really, really helpful against the Ursaluna and the Landorus, you know, just ensuring that it took about only 50% damage from a Facade. And I think everyone knows that unless you're a Ghost type, a lot of the times, even if you resist that Facade, you're taking a lot of damage from Ursaluna.
And it's important to note that Henry going for the Moonblast instead of the Shadow Ball. If he would have clicked Shadow Ball at any point in time, Chestnut would have not taken any damage due.
Yes, and here we go. Game 2 of round 2, and Chloha is going to lead off with the Fluttermane and Iron Hands, and Hendez is going to lead with the Cresselia and Ursaluna, a very classic duo in Regulation D.
It is a big combination in Regulation D right now. We see the Cresselia and Ursaluna usually used for Trick Room setup and getting the Ursaluna in Trick Room because of its very low speed but major attack stat, and getting the Flame Orb activated. But with an Iron Hands on the other side of the field, it could very easily go for something like a Fake Out and prevent the Cresselia from attacking for 1 turn.
Yes, that is true. And this Fluttermane is not the Imprison Trick Room set. So after this first, so if the Cresselia gets flinched, it won't be able to say set up a Trick Room, but you can just set up a Trick Room the following turn. But that Fluttermane is actually going to switch out this turn in replacing with a Chestnut, and Fake Out, of course, does come into that Cresselia, preventing it from being able to do anything. And Iron Hands is going to take some Rocky Helmet chip damage.
Yes, it is. And with the Cresselia flinching, that allows Ursaluna to get off its +2 Swords Dance attack boost. And now the Flame Orb has activated. So this Ursaluna is now major powered up.
I'm seeing this Cresselia's moveset, which is absolutely amazing in Ally Switch, and I wonder if Chloha is going to try and maybe predict some sort of Ally Switch, because of course the Chestnut being a grass and fighting type can hit the Ursaluna for super effective damage. Actually, the Ursaluna is facing 2 fighting types, and Ursaluna being part normal probably won't enjoy it too much, but the Iron Hands is going to switch out this turn.
And we see the Landorus come out here to get that Intimidate. So while Ursaluna is at +1 attack now after the Intimidate, it's still going to take a hit and not like it.
Yes, and we're going to see a Terror come out from the Ursaluna, possibly just trying to dodge any super effective fighting type moves, because now it's a poison type. But Landorus coming in, the Ursaluna is going to be taking super effective damage from any ground type moves on this Ursaluna, and Chestnut once again going +2 defense in Iron Defense.
But the Ursaluna going for the Sword Stance here and basically negating the Landorus' Intimidate. It is now a +3 in Trick Room.
Oh, this is a really, really scary Ursaluna. I think in the last game, the Ursaluna with a Sword Stance was able to deal about 50% to a Chestnut at +4 defense. This Ursaluna is now at +3, and the Chestnut is only at +2 defense. So there's a chance that the Chestnut might actually just get knocked out from the Facade in this turn.
It's very possible. I mean, that facade is definitely a very used move, as we see Landorus switch out here, and in comes the Flutter Mane. So Flutter Mane trying to risk a facade into that slot, as we see another sword stance come out from Henry's Ursaluna. This Ursaluna is just powering itself up.
Wow, this Ursaluna is at what, +5 now, and the Cresselia going for Moonblast does actually quite a reasonable amount of damage to this Chestnut, which is now at +4 defenses. And Chestnut getting some health back. And Flutter Mane probably not as happy being in a Trick Room right now, but possibly the Flutter Mane might have switched in to try and predict some sort of facade coming in to that Landorus slot. And being a Ghost type, it means the Ursaluna is forced to use Ground type moves against that Flutter Mane to be able to hit it.
Yes, it is, and that facade can probably knock out that Chestnut here. It all depends on how much damage, as the Chestnut goes for the spiky shield, trying to bait that facade into it for extra damage. Ursaluna goes for facade, and it went into Flutter Mane. The Flutter Mane takes the immunity on the facade. That is a great play on Chloha.
Yes, I think perhaps Hendez was predicting a Landorus switch in, but now the Flutter Mane going for that Shadow Ball does so much damage to the Cresselia. And Cresselia in the red, it does have... Did we catch a glimpse of Lunar Blessing? Because Cresselia might be able to just heal itself back up a little bit from that. Yes, there is Lunar Blessing.
Yes, it is Lunar Blessing, the move that will heal by 25%, but at the cost of Ursaluna. Ursaluna will lose its burn if Cresselia is slower than its partner Ursaluna.
Yes, and that Trick Room we see, there's 2 more turns. So, this Ursaluna comfortably is going to get the speed advantage. I think Ursaluna is naturally a really, really slow Pokemon, so the chances are Hendez has trained the Ursaluna to be a lot slower than the Cresselia, meaning that it can get the Lunar Blessing off. And now we do see that Landorus coming back in, trying to drop that +5 attack Ursaluna to +4. So I wonder if a +4 Ursaluna can knock out this Chestnut.
And the Chestnut lives! It lives! Oh my god, this Chestnut! But the Rocky Helmet takes it out. Cresselia goes down, but it is not going down alone as it takes down this Chestnut. What a play!
Oh, that Chestnut, just key survival in that facade, coming off a +4 Ursaluna. That's a really, really strong hit. Well, of course, it went for the body press onto the Cresselia, and that Rocky Helmet damage is going to hurt it. And now the Chestnut, which was a major defensive war for Chloha in that game 1, has been knocked out, and we have an Iron Hand switching in for that against the Flutter Mane.
Yes, we do, and the Iron Hands does have Fake Out as a potential move, so it could theoretically make sure that Ursaluna goes and flinches, and then something on the Landorus side, maybe like an Earthquake or a Stomping Tantrum to knock out this Ursaluna. But the Flutter Mane does have Dazzling Gleam, and it's a special attack boost, so it will do damage even through the Assault Vest on this Iron Hand.
And the Flutter Mane is, I think this is the last turn of Trick Room, so the Flutter Mane can just easily protect, and then next turn it will be the fastest Pokemon on this field. But I think, did we see just a glimpse of Hendez's back Pokemon, or did he actually switch? Because this Ursaluna is just really bad. Yes, the Ursaluna is actually going to switch out, so Hendez choosing to preserve the Ursaluna and just foregoing that +4 attack boost for the Landorus, switching in, just dropping a really nice -1 attack onto both the Iron Hands and the Landorus.
And the Iron Hands did end up going for the Fake Out as the Landorus goes for the U-turn here, and it goes back, so now it can reset the Intimidate as Trick Room will expire on this turn.
And
out comes Flutter Mane.
Yeah, so Flutter Mane versus Flutter Mane, we haven't seen yet the speed interactions of these 2 Flutter Manes against each other, but now the Trick Room has expired, so whoever's Flutter Mane is the faster one might have the speed advantage here. And that was actually quite a good play from Hendez, just, recognizing that it's not probably, even though the Ursaluna is at +4, it might just faint to any super effective ground type move, so withdrawing it in. But now this Iron Hands is going to be withdrawn for a Landorus, dropping the intimate attack of Hendez Landorus.
Yes, it will. And the Landorus is now going to be at -1 attack with whatever move it chooses. And it goes for Rock Tomb, and it still does damage on the Fluttermane, drops its speed. And the Fluttermane on Henry's side is now faster, and down goes the Fluttermane on Chlora's side.
Ooh, that was a key knockout for Henry over there, and Fluttermane being such a strong, damage deal. But Choice Scarf Landorus, just one of a bit of a throwback to some of the older generations, but proving just how strong it is. And Fluttermane being a ghost type really isn't going to care so much about any sort of fighting or fake outs from this Iron Hand. So this Fluttermane is in quite a nice position. I don't think it can be knocked out by the Landorus in one hit. So it might be knocked out by, say, a double up or wild charge plus maybe stomping tantrum from Chloa's side. But Henry still got a real Ursaluna out in the back. So this is a bit of a dire predicament for Chloa. But the game isn't over, and who knows what might happen.
The game is definitely not over yet. Chloa could very easily pull this back, as we do see a terrestrialization come out on Chlora's side. This is going to be on the Landorus, and their Landorus turns into a Terra flying with the choice band attached to it. So whatever move Landorus clicks here is going to be massively overpowered.
Oh yes, and we see that Fluttermane going for a take, just getting itself safe. But of course, now that Landorus is a flying type, it is going to be taking super effective damage from that Rock Tomb, and Terra Blast coming out, going into a very wise protect there on Henry's side.
Going into the Fluttermane with the Terra Blast, but the Iron Hands went for Ice Punch into the Landorus, and that does enough to knock out Henry's Landorus. But now in the back is that poison type Ursaluna and a Fluttermane. It is a 2v2, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the final stretch.
Oh, this is so close. The Fluttermane does outspeed both of Chloa's Pokemon. So if it is able to get a knockout on that on that Landorus, or that always does knock out the Iron Hands and leave.
And it was a critical hit on the Iron Hands with the Dazzling Gleam through the Assault Vest, as the Terra Blast comes out on the Landorus into the Ursaluna slot. Will this be enough? It is not enough. The Ursaluna barely survives. It goes for Facade. The Landorus is down.
Oh, what a close game. I think Chloa almost had it in that second game, but of course, losing that Chestnut in that second game to that Rocky Helmet, surviving the plus 4 from the Ursaluna, just showing just how defensive a Chestnut can be. But unfortunately, the Ursaluna was just at such a high, had been boosted so much, it wasn't able to take that many hits.
Ursaluna was easily the MVP in this game for Henry's side, being able to do massive damage to that Chestnut, still being able to play around the Fluttermane and in Trick Room. Cresselia taking down the Chestnut while it got knocked out by the body press on Chestnut was huge, and that is why Henry gets the 2-0.
Yeah, and Ursaluna Cresselia just showing exactly why this is such a powerful pairing in this format right now. This Cresselia and Ursaluna, their typings really complement each other, and we never saw the ally switch in play during that game, but I'm sure that is something that Henry's opponent had in mind. At any point, if you predict wrong, the ally switch might just come out, and you might end up just hitting a not very effective attack onto your opponent.
Yes, the ally switch is a very underrated move, with the priority being able to switch your positioning with your teammate. It can either be a benefit or it could be a hindrance if your opponent makes the correct read on your switch. However, by Henry not getting the ally switch off, he essentially allowed his Ursaluna to get set up while being able to set up.
But we are going to get ready for our round 3 very shortly, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be back soon.